Kia ora. Welcome back to the Ins and Outs podcast. I'm Koen.
I'm Jemilah, and we're here to have casual and informative conversations about how to navigate the music industry in Aotearoa.
On this episode, we had a kōrero with Jeff Newton about the ins and outs of radio.
Jeff is currently the broadcast promotions executive for New Zealand On Air, but he's also spent many years working for various radio stations around New Zealand. With 30-odd years in radio and music, Jeff sure does know the ins and outs of radio.
We chat about radio playlists, why radio is still relevant, and how to get your song broadcasted.
Buckle up as we ramble our way through this episode. You'll come out the other side with some top-tier radio insight and share some laughs along the way.
Let's get into it. Let's just kick it off with who you are and what you do, and maybe the few kind of points in history that got you to where you are now.
Tēnā koutou. I'm called Jeff Newton tōku ingoa. I am Jeff Newton, and I'm the music promoter platforms for New Zealand On Air, which is a really ambiguous title.
What does that even mean?
Yeah,
Exactly.
I always find it when I'm going to things or like filling out application forms and things, and they're like, "What's your occupation?" It's kind of like, how do I say this? So yeah, it's like music promoter, but I'm not a promoter. It's more promotions. How did I get here? I worked in radio. So, I started out as a photocopier technician, but I was so good at that, they moved me into the warehouse. And so looking through the paper, and it was something people always said, like, you'd be good on the radio. So I went to radio school in Wellington. Mm-hmm. And then went into radio and got my first job at My FM in 1994. Yeah. And I guess it's kind of relevant in my history because at the time I was the guy that hired me, Graham Pryor, put me into the promotions team at My FM with Jason Kerrison.
Sure.
So we became mates, and then he got out of radio and started his music career. So I'll start talking about him a lot because he lived at my parents' house. When he was like, I'm going to do music, it was like, I'm from Invercargill, got nowhere to stay. So I moved into my mum and dad's house in Pakuranga. So he did. And so I watched him, while I was working in radio, watched him start and build his music career. So I kind of always had this music and radio kind of industries, and I understood how they wove together and how they impacted each other. But yeah, worked in various roles on air at literally every radio station you can think of. Started at My FM, then went to a little station, Soul FM, then Coromandel FM, then More FM, then The Hits, Classic Hits, then Hodaki, then ZM, then The Edge, then More FM, then a little stint at The Rock, then back to More FM. And then I kind of got the pip of radio and went and drove a bus. So I drove a bus for 4 years, driving backpackers around New Zealand.
Sweet.
And because music was my thing, on the bus you've got these 50 backpackers from around the world, young people who love music.
Yeah.
So I did like a New Zealand music lesson every day on the bus. So even in tourism I got known as the music guy.
The music guy, yeah.
And then... life happens. I met my wife and she got pregnant. She was driving a bus as well. I was like, well, God, can't do this anymore. Yeah. And then now this is going to sound like it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Sure.
But which is kind of true in the essence that it helps to know people.
Of course.
Yeah. It's a small industry in New Zealand. So, but if you don't know what you need to know,
it's going to show.
You're going to get found out.
Yeah.
And they move you on. But a guy that I used to work in radio with, Matt Headland, had become the head of EMI.
Yeah.
And I was looking for a job. I was a kid on the way. What am I going to do?
Yeah.
Can't be on a bus anymore. And then I saw him at a party and he said, what are you doing? And I said, I've got to find a job. And he came back to me like 3 weeks later and went, I need a radio plugger for EMI. And so I became the promotions manager at EMI because even though I'd been gone 4 years, I still knew everyone. So I knew everybody at every radio station.
Yeah,
and so I already had those relationships. And so I started radio plugging there, and I did that for just over 3 years, almost 4 years. And then one of my best friends was doing this job at New Zealand On Air.
Yeah.
And EMI had just been sold to Universal.
Right.
And we were all like, oh no, what are we going to do? And I went and had lunch with my mate and said, I don't know what to do. And he was like, I've just got the job at Hauraki. I'm off on my way back to radio.
Great.
Ring Brendan next week. And so I did. And I applied and I got the job.
Awesome.
And that was 11 years ago.
Yeah.
But even though it helped to know people, it also helped that, you know, I'd been around and I'd
At
watched
that point,
people.
so you'd done 14 years in radio, drove a bus for a while.
Yeah.
4 years.
Yeah.
And then, went back to EMI.
Yeah.
And then, of course, moved to
New Zealand. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So it makes about, I don't know, working with radio and music about almost 30 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know? So it's kind of like, So you kind of, I've seen people start at the grassroots level and now it's like, I think this is one of the things that people misunderstand about New Zealand On Air is like, you know, you should give the money to the people who need it most. And it's kind of like, well, we're not wins. Like, we're like high performance sport, right? We are trying to find help things get to the very top.
Yeah.
So we're looking for All Blacks.
And beyond just New Zealand, I guess, as well.
Our remit is for New Zealand.
Oh, awesome.
New Zealand stories and New Zealand voices for New Zealand audience.
Yeah.
So that's our, the Music Commission are worried about outside of New Zealand.
That's right. That's right.
But
outward sound and such.
But that being said, we care if something pops off overseas.
Yeah,
completely. Yeah,
because New Zealanders love that.
Absolutely love it. Yeah,
it's real big. Wow, it must be amazing. And we start loving it too. You know?
Suddenly everybody jumps on that bandwagon.
So it's So it's been a pretty interesting and varied time in the music industry.
Yeah, all from working like as a photocopier technician.
Dude,
so
and it was an ad in the paper.
Yeah,
and the newspaper just looking through the situations vacant and said, "Do you want to be on the radio?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah."
No, I think that just really to me that just really shows that you just got to be keen, passionate about something and absorb a lot of knowledge, and you can actually really just go into anything. It might take a while.
Yeah.
You know, say if you went bang into a degree, it might have been a faster thing, but you still get there. You just start on one thing. Work hard at it and be passionate about it,
look,
and
that's
it'll
the
take
thing.
you somewhere.
The job I got at my FM started out as a part-time. It was for a week, and I went in, and I'd just come out of radio school, and so I just wanted to get into the industry.
Sure.
So I did this. I think it was 2 hours a day. Mate, this is how old I am. There was telecom. And they just bought out this pager for kids, so that parents on their newfandangled cell phones could ring a number, and this little thing on their kid's belt would. Oh, mum wants me, and they'd have to go and find a landline and ring mum, right?
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So it was just they were just coming out. It was the new thing, and we did that for I think it was 2 hours a day for a week. And then after that, I came back and there was a job to be done. So I was like, I'll come and do it.
Yeah.
And I did it for free for for a few months. And then I started, this was before automation, so it was still CDs and carts.
Yeah.
So someone still had to come in and keep the radio station running from midnight till 6 a.m.
Yeah.
So I started doing that.
Oh, of course.
At the weekends for free to begin with.
Yeah.
Starting at midnight on a Saturday night and
man,
going till
so
6 a.m. on a Sunday.
Oh, the graveyard shift.
So rough.
Mate.
Starting from the bottom,
you started at the bottom.
Totally.
But grafted. But like you said, you pick up experience and you pick up knowledge, and then then they brought in computers into studios, and so you didn't need that person anymore. So then it was like how radio is programmed and all of that kind of stuff, how the technology works and what's possible with the technology changed overnight, and then how that impacted music consumption.
Yeah, totally.
So so it was.
That's actually maybe a really good follow on from that, because you're saying that radio keeps changing and how radio operates keeps changing, and over the years and such, but how music is consumed completely changes with that, right? If there's not someone in midnight talking to you like, hey guys, like if you're still awake, thanks for tuning in, blah blah blah. Now it's just like, here's your 100 favorite tunes for the next 5 hours or whatever.
Oh, it's interesting, man. Like back in, sort of, you go through these classic albums and songs and things, and it's like, we gave the song to this guy on this radio station and he played the song first and it blew up. And then all the other radio people started playing as well, and it just blew up, because this one guy played it first and his audience loved it. There's a little bit of that. Zane Lowe can do it. There's a few, Elton John's kind of podcast thing that he does, that can do it. But there's not really that kind of like Zane Lowe on BBC One or, Pete Tong on in the UK or something like that, where you can go get one of them to play the song. It's the record of the week and it's massive. So there's less of that now, and it's come now back to that the power of that radio being able to be the only point of discovery now, to the point where it's the strongest form of recommendation for any kind of music as peers. It's your friends. It's the people around you going,
you actually take
I
serious.
dig this, and then you're like, that's always been a really strong one. And it's still the case, but it's enhanced more so because of the diminished power of radio to be that sole arbitrator of what's going massive,
what's popular.
But it's still important, and I've heard artists say, when you get a song on the radio, you'll certainly notice it in your recorded music rap fun check. You notice that.
I was gonna say sort of what makes it still relevant.
So it's like the ultimate tastemaker. Right? Not everybody is like me, and I'm assuming you two, and wake up on a Friday and pick up your phone and go, New Music Friday, what's my new favourite song this week? Oh, who made it on? Who's not? Oh, look at that.
What's going on?
What's going on, So not everyone is a music seeker, but every single person who walks the face of this planet, even the people in the middle of Africa or in the middle of the Amazon, has a favourite song. They have a piece of music that they connect with in some way, and that's their favourite. Whether it reminds them of a feeling or of a situation or of a person or whatever that is, there's that emotional connection to a piece of music that is in every single person. It's music is the one thing that everybody on the face of every culture on earth has.
It's just like a universal language.
It is the universal language, because everybody does it. Everybody has it. So it's that's the power that music has, and that has never changed. And radio helps you find the people who are not the go out and look for music all the time kind of people. They are the people who are, kind of, people listen to radio stations because they are too busy to go and choose something. They just want something that they like, and that's where you get niches and genres of radio stations, because we're targeting a certain type of person with a certain type of music and finding out what's popular within that genre to the greatest number of people. Because they're businesses, they are trying to reach the most amount of people so that they can charge more for advertising so that they make more money. That's their business.
Everything sort of has to serve each other in that circle. Like radio helps the artists, but the music helps the radio as well. If you right.
Totally. And it's different power dynamics within that circle that change, and it's kind of like how do you work with that, and and the thing that's ultimately true is the power is in the song.
Yeah, always.
It's about the song. It's the same with funding rounds. It's the same with radio. It's the same with a band who's got, it's about the song and people making this emotional connection with the song and loving the song.
Always.
When I was at EMI, I worked on the global release of Iron Maiden Flight 666, the DVD. And it was one where Bruce Dickinson flew the plane, where they went touring around the world. So they went to places they'd never been before. And every time they came out on stage in places like India and Colombia, and for the life of me, I think they played a show in the Middle East somewhere. But when they came out on stage, there were all these people in the front row crying. Because they'd made this emotional connection with this band that to see them for the first time play live was overwhelming, So it's that ability, that emotional connection that people made with music is why people love music.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's the same now as it always was. How people emotionally connect with music and how they consume that music has changed, and how they interact with that music has changed, but the fact of they love it and why they love it was always the same. It's the most important thing, and as long as you can keep that up, then you'll do it forever.
What you were saying before is really good as well, that the radio is going to play songs that will get the bigger audience, but if you have a song that is maybe in a niche, which is what you were sort of mentioning before as well. Just let's talk a little bit about the importance of finding the right station for you and the right station for maybe that specific song or whatever. Yeah,
it's a hard one, man, because the two rock stations we have in New Zealand don't play all rock. They play a certain type of rock aimed at a certain type of rock listener. Pop focuses... Well, pop's funny, man. Like, it's popular. So at the moment, country music's popular. So they play heaps of country. Heaps of country. It's massive. But it's all cyclical, before Lord, the DJ was king, It was all David Guetta, Mark Ronson, Calvin Harris. Those dudes were busting out the big hits, and I was at EMI and it was like, we've got another David Guetta song. It's like, awesome. Here we go, another song's going to help me. That's my airplane numbers, mean. And they'd be like, oh, we've got this new Coldplay song. It's kind of like, I don't know if they're going to like this. And thankfully it would go real well in the UK and the States. It was like, you have to play it. But the power of Lord is that she came out with something connected with an audience emotionally. That there was a whole generation of the audience that went, I get what she's talking about. We're all trying to be rich, but we're not really rich, and we're living the rich life, but we're not really rich, And a whole generation of kids went, I get that. And then the groundswell was so massive that radio kind of changed the sound of the radio stations to fit Lord, because the audience were going, Lord, 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 we want Lord, So I guess the point I'm trying to make is radio stations worry about two things, right? Their bottom line and their audience, right? Now, playing your song on the radio is not going to make them any money, because it's going to cost them money, because they've got to pay a royalty on your song being played, right? But if you can affect their audience, they'll change the sound of the radio station to fit you. So I tend not to say to people, look, go and find the radio station that you fit into. If you go and find an audience and you grow that audience, the radio station will fit you, will change the sound to fit you, right? So overnight, Lord, everyone's going, we want Lord, So the radio stations had to change the sound of the radio stations to fit Lord. So all of a sudden, we're couldn't get David Guetta away anymore, and it was all Broods and Troye Sivan and Rule, and pop music changed.
It's great. Yeah.
To, so now you got Billie Eilish as pop music, right? You don't have Billie Eilish without Lorde.
Yeah.
And that's why people like David Bowie were like, she's changed the face of pop music. She absolutely did.
Yeah.
You know?
It's almost like keeping up with the times and seeing like if you are Billie Eilish and you're seeing you're seeing Lorde or an artist in that realm, and you seeing Lorde being played more on the radio, and you go, there's a bit of a shift here. Like
and probably naturally you'll get inspired, right? Like it's so you can constantly see it. Change in what music people make.
People can fall into the hole of trying to be the next one of that though, which can be a pitfall. And I think one of the things like I was lucky enough to go to APRA Song Hubs one year, a few years back. We sponsor it, so I'm lucky enough to go every now and then. But I went to this one because Mike Elizondo was one of the guest producers, and Mike Elizondo was Eminem's producer, right? Yeah. And he wrote Galway Girl with Ed Sheeran, right? And so I went up to Song Hubs, and because I was a massive fan of the first two Eminem records, I came and had lunch and sat down, and I got introduced to him, and we started talking. And one of the things that he loved about being here in New Zealand is that when you're in the States, you get a lot of people coming in the room going, what's hot right now? I want to do that. Yeah. Let's do that because it's hot. And he would come here to New Zealand, and he just had all these people going, I do this, and I just want to do it as well as I can.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah, and he loved it as well. He was like, it's so refreshing because it's like, I do this, and I just want to make it as good as possible. It's like, all right, let's do that. Rather than what's the big thing, I want to do the big thing.
Right, so it's more...
I was so you're going to do better at doing that thing. That's why Lorde's Lorde, because she did what she wanted to do, and that ends up changing things. Even Billie Eilish, like, obviously there's like a natural progression from one to the other, but she would have equally as much been doing her own thing. Definitely. It just like happened to coincide with... with
a movement and a shift in the sound of the music, you know? But the thing is that if you look at what's made it internationally outside of New Zealand, it's not pop stars and kind of straight down the middle, kind of outside of She Had, rock bands that do really well overseas. The things that come out of New Zealand are quite uniquely New Zealand.
Sure, yeah,
like
for sure.
Lorde, even Big Runga and Brooke Fraser were kind of different. Anika Moore, they were kind of different stylistically from a lot of the solo female artists that were coming out of all other places in the world. Yeah. Split Ends.
Oh, totally.
Everything that comes, OMC, everything that comes out in New Zealand that goes massive overseas is not like anything else anyone else has seen overseas. And that's the advantage with New Zealand. Is we can be, and that's kind of our musical reputation, is
aliens from another planet.
Being a bit different and outside the box because we are so far away, but it actually impacting massively. How Bizarre and Royals being the two best
examples of
that,
Great.
So it's just finding what you do and then making it as good as you can, and then getting an audience to connect with it. If you can get an audience to connect with it, then the radio station will play you, man. Radio is relevant, I guess, all the way back to the point. Radio is relevant because it will find those people that are not actively seeking music, who are too busy in their lives, they've got jobs, they got kids, they got stuff going on that... They want to, what do I like?
Yeah, but a 15-minute rush drive to work when you don't have time to connect your Bluetooth.
To
your phone.
That's it. It's like, what am I listening to? True. A lot of people like it because it's the personalities in the morning. And that's the thing is that's why they are so important. It's the most people listening, but that's because most people, it's like morning television. It's all interesting, and it kind of gives you and this is something they teach you at broadcasting school and at radio school, is the whole idea of the breakfast show is to give you a sense of the day and to make you feel good about the day that you've got coming up. So it's positive, it's up, it's cheery, but it's also talking about the things that are happening today. You know, and so you get a real sense of the day, and so that's the aim of it. Then you're at work, so then you have your day show, and that's about keeping you listening through the day so that you tune in to the afternoon drive home when you're heading home, and then nighttime's about the kids.
Sure.
Right? And so the shows are aimed and geared differently, and their playlist reflects that.
Sure.
Right, yeah, you want like sort of maybe more upbeat peppy songs in the morning, maybe.
Well, not too much.
Not too much.
Not too much, because
there's a fine line.
Yeah. Like if you turn on and there's some real. If you listen to rock and it's like, whoa, you're gonna go, whoa, a bit early for that.
It's gonna be a gnarly day.
Right? Or if you turn on mine and it's some hardcore trap. Drill song. Whoa. So, but it's about mood. It's about tempo is a big thing that they talk about in radio. It's tempo, and it's hits. And one of the thing about radio is it's got to be recognisable. Like, how often do you get in your car? Like, let's be honest, most people listen to the radio in the car. How often do you turn on your car at the start of a song?
Never. True.
Never.
Yeah.
It's a very small chance.
Yeah. So when you turn the car on and the radio starts, you've got to instantly know the song and know that you want to listen to it and not go, ooh, what's this? Because that's the worst thing that can happen to radio stations. You change the channel and you go to the opposition. So that's a thing with radio. So radio only really play the hits. So I think one of the mistakes that people make about radio is they think that the radio is going to help them find their audience.
It's the opposite.
Well, it's not. It will amplify their audience. It will send it out to a wider audience of people who may like something, but they are not actively seeking it. So you need to firstly build a core audience that's large enough for a radio station to take notice of it, and then they'll amplify that to people who aren't actively seeking it, right? So radio airplay's got to come down the road.
Okay, that's good.
You shouldn't come out with one song and go, get that on the radio and I'm off. Because A, it's probably not going to happen, because like I was saying before, radios only care about two things, their audience and their bottom line, right? If you can impact their audience, they're on board, man.
Happy days.
Would you say there's like sort of a progression of things though? Like say if it's your first few releases, reaching out to some smaller radio stations, like more local radio stations that like have less, say, pressure, and then working your way up to those big My FM, ZM, The Edge, those big radio stations.
I think if you're releasing your first song, you should still send it to ZM and you should still send it to The Edge, but just set your expectation.
Don't get hopes too
high. Well, you may get there. It may be a good song, but if I take a new artist and a new song into a radio station and we start sitting there talking about the song, if it's kind of marginal, they may go, okay, let's see what the next one's like. Or what's the one after that? And they want to see a consistency. So that, because with a radio station, if they start supporting an artist,
they want the follow through.
They want the artist to continue for them, because that works for them. It's an artist.
It's going to build that audience.
It builds the audience for them, and they want to keep supporting an artist. So they're kind of wasting airplay on one song, unless that song's a massive hit. One-hit wonders. But if you're supporting a song and there's nothing really to come from that artist going forward, it's kind of a waste of spins for them. They've got a whole host of other songs. That's the other thing, is people don't understand how competitive it is for spots on a playlist.
There's a lot of music.
I am nowhere near the like the streaming services are probably listening to double what I am.
Yeah.
Actually, I've heard a number that I listen to about 500 new songs a month.
Yeah.
I have spoken to people at curators at streaming services, and they're listening to about 1,000 a week.
Yeah, that's insane.
And then there's 120,000 that go up every day.
Yeah.
Which is a bizarre number.
Yeah, sure.
That's it. So, how competitive it is, and the thing with radio station playlists is they have their active playlist is probably only about 30 songs. You know, over there.
That's a lot.
But that's A's, B's, C's, D's, and then you're, so it's, and you probably your new music rotates, right? So
they actually quickly touch on what that even means, the A, B, C,
D's, sure.
and whatever.
Yeah, so with a radio station, they will have, so they build a thing called a clock.
Yeah.
And the clock is for each hour. And every single hour of the day has a clock that relates to that hour. And the clock is basically an hour recipe that they can use to build that hour. And it has categories ranging from your super hot songs, which are A categories. Your next kind of songs are B's. Your next songs are C's. Then you'll have a new music category and maybe what they call like a recurrence, so the songs that have been all the way up and then they're coming down, so that right. So the clock is made up on top of that, and then you have golds and recurrence and that kind of stuff, right? And so the clock is an hour, and the clocks change each hour depending on what kind of recipe they want.
Sure.
But an A rotate song on a station like ZM will get played about 60 times a week.
Yeah.
Whereas a new music rotate, so a song that they're trying to expose to the audience, will get about 22 to 24 spins a week.
Yeah.
Separation on a song at a place like ZM or The Edge is about 2.5 hours. So it'll be 2.5 hours before you hear it again.
Yeah.
Whereas when you get into your B's and C's and D's, that gets up to more like 7 hours. Your golds and recurrence is a massive list of songs. That may be like the categories at the moment, like the super hots and ZM, there's like maybe 6.
Yeah.
And then there's like 6 B's.
Yeah.
Then there'll be about 8 C's, and and those are the songs where you're like, oh, I'm sick of hearing this song.
Yeah.
Because you're probably hearing it. If you're listening to a radio station on the reg, which is on the latest survey results, about 6 or 7 hours a week.
Yeah.
2.5 hours for separation on those songs. You're probably hearing one of those songs 5-6 times a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which if you're listening to the radio station a lot, you after the week, a couple of weeks of that, you're like, oh, sick of the song.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But that's only a small amount of people that listen so often.
But then that leads us into how do they choose those songs and where they go on those rotates, and that comes down to the research.
Yeah.
So, when I take a song into a radio station and we start talking about an artist, so I'll go, they've got this many streams on Spotify, they've done an article in this magazine or this publication, or they've appeared on this website, and they've got this tour coming up and all of this stuff, and also because the Māori in me, I guess, because I like to work out how people are connected to each other and the connections between people and stuff. I might talk about how this guy produced that, who wrote with that, or this guy wrote on the song, or these people, they come from this town or something like that. So I always like to kind of personalise them a bit more by giving kind of that information. But it's in those conversations, it comes down to them for looking at those metrics initially of streams, views, shares, likes, posts, waves, all of that kind of stuff, because that stuff is there's an audience, or there's no audience,
sort of proof,
right?
Yeah.
And then after that, it's like is that my audience? So they might investigate, might go and look through someone's Facebook page and something and look at what kind of people they are and think, oh, yeah, they don't look like people who listen to my radio station. I'll play the song.
Yeah.
Now, a radio station will then put the song into their own research, right? Now, if you go onto like a radio station website, or you might hear on the ads they have on the radio, it's like, rate our music.
Yeah, I've definitely done a few of those.
Yeah, we'll give you $250 or we'll give you a new iPhone or something like that, right? So you go onto their websites and you get linked through to another website. I think the NZB one is called The Playlist, and the MediaWorks one is called something else, but it actually goes to the same company. It's the same research model, and it's the printouts of the results are exactly the same colour-coded columns of numbers that to the layperson mean absolutely nothing. But what they you kind of fill out some demographic information.
Where are you based?
Yeah. You know,
how often?
And then you pick this demonstrator, and it's like, do you like this? And it'd be like, she had the Foo Fighters, something like a whole lot of songs like that, and you're like, oh, I like that. Straight into the rock or Hodaki's research, or I like all these pop songs, so you go put into the pop music ones, or they give you a demonstrator and you choose one, and you're choosing the radio station that you're wanting to feed back into, right?
Yeah.
So then you get it's basically 30 songs, and it just it comes up and it's got the song. You press play and it plays you about 15 seconds of the hook of the song, the most recognisable part of the song. There's a few sliders, couple of sliders, or depending on which radio station you're doing, some of them have more, some of them have less. But it'll be like, I know it, I don't know it, I like it, I don't like it.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things, right?
Yeah.
And you slide your slider along, and without seeing the name of the song or the name of the artist, right? So you have about 30 of those. And they need about, I think the sample size, they need at least 100 people to do it in a week for it to be like a good sample size.
Sure.
Yeah.
But from that, they get a printout and it tells them from their audience. So this is not, when you look at social media and stuff, you're like, oh, there's an audience. The research that they get back is from their audience, right? People who listen to their radio station and they listen to what they do, right? And so from that, they get POSAC, positive acceptance. How many people like a song? Oh, no, passion is first. How many people love it? It's their favourite song.
Awesome.
POSAC, I like it. Neutral, don't care. Neg, hate it.
Yeah.
Unfamiliar, don't know it.
Yeah.
Potential, don't know it.
But it sounds
but might like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Burn, know it, sick of it.
Yeah.
Burn it.
Yeah, it's bad. There's a few of those.
Through that, but through the demo stuff as well, they find out what stations you listen to. So at the end of that, all of those numbers is P1s for other radio stations that you think you may be sharing audience with. So you can see how well the song does at ZM, and you have to say it's The Edge. They can see how well it does at ZM, at More FM, at George, at The Rock, And so that feeds back into them, and that dictates to them what goes into the higher rotates and the lower rotates and what songs, whether a song is going to jump in that. Now, artists can game the system, right? You can go, hey, my song's on this radio station, jump in and off you go and vote for my song.
Yeah.
And people do. The thing is that you tell your audience to do that, they do it once, and there's a massive spike.
Yeah.
And then they come to the next week's research and it's gone all the way back down again. And it's a massive drop again. And so they tend to see that.
Yeah.
So it's the research they have, it shows trend.
Yeah.
And all they want to see is when they play a song is that the trend is increasing. Because a radio station needs to play a song about 80 times. So when I was saying before that if you're listening to a radio station, then you're hearing a song like 5, 6, 7 times in a week, depending on how much you listen to that radio station. when they're playing a new song, you're only playing it like 24 times.
Yeah.
So it's only like 3 times a day.
Yeah.
3 or 4 times a day, right? So you may hear that song like twice in a week if you're just an average listener to a radio station.
Totally.
So they need to play a song probably 80 times before they get a real handle on how much is. And for a radio station playlist, that's a lot of time. That's like 4 weeks.
Yeah, you're signing up to quite a lot there.
Yeah. And so to a radio station, they want that song to work because they're putting all of their time and effort into that track.
Yeah, totally.
You know, so it's so when they choose those, it's a big decision for them. So back to the categories. So from the research, the top 6 or 7 songs in the research, they're your A's.
Yeah.
They're the songs that you're hearing all the time because all of the audience is saying, love it,
know it,
or I like it, or I
it.
don't know it and I think I'm going to like it, right? They're the big ones. And then the ones that they're taking out are, I know it and I hate it.
I've heard it so many times.
Or, which is another one that's a bit, if they've played a song like 100 times and everyone's like, don't know it, and I'm not moved either way.
Yeah,
I'm
don't
neutral.
really care.
So you got high neutral and it's, you know, it's unfamiliar, but you've played it like 100 times.
Yeah.
The audience just aren't registering with it.
It's
gone.
It goes out.
That goes out. Yeah. It's just gone. Right. So that's the thing with the those radio station playlists is that the research drives most of that. Yeah. Now there may be other influences, but it's because it's their audience, or that they may see something happening, or they may have the inside word on or they may be supporting a tour by that artist, that they may stick with a song through bad research, but generally they. Yeah. If someone turns on their car and we're halfway through a song going, oh, what's that? Change the channel. That's the worst thing ever. That's bad for them.
Totally.
So they don't want that.
Yeah.
So their A rotate songs are the ones their audience is saying they love. Then they'll have their Bs, which are a few less spins. People still like them, but they're not as popular. Then your Cs are kind of, depending on the radio station, are either songs that have kind of stuck around but haven't really become hits, or as a testing ground for new songs, and you want to a song's been a new song for a while but it's not like an A yet. So you kind of move songs around, songs go up, songs go down, and then you drop songs out, and when you've done all that, you've probably got about, out of your top 30 songs and making changes, they've probably got about 2 or 3 songs to add.
Yeah.
Now, I come in with my list of songs to the radio stations, and there's like, I don't know, I could have 20 songs that we're talking about. EMI's coming in with their list, and they've got a certain amount of songs, because EMI and Universal are still the same company, but they kind of keep them separate. So they have a person for EMI and a person for Universal. So, and the Universal person's coming in, they've got about 20 songs, then Sony, Warner's are coming in, and Sony are coming in. So there's like, you know, and I have all of their New Zealand songs, but I have all the New Zealand songs that are not theirs as well.
Yeah.
So it works out that we're all coming in each week, and there's like, you know, there'll be 30 new songs that week going for 3 spots, but that's not including all of the other songs that we started talking about last week and the week before and the week before that.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You know,
it's ongoing.
But yeah, it is, because once that's the thing is people are like, oh, I've got my song out, and you should expect it to go on the radio, and like it can take, you know, when I was at EMI, I played Birds of Tokyo plans for 9 months.
Wow. Yeah.
Before anyone started playing it, they won 4 arias, and we brought them over here on 3 trips. Being a major label, we could afford to bring them over. And showcase them 3 times before radio started playing and becoming a top 10 airplay hit, right?
Which is good. Kind of brings back to having an audience in New Zealand for New Zealand radio to pick it up.
Yeah,
with
totally.
Those tours bringing
Don't be so hard on yourself.
Yeah.
Radio doesn't playlist your song.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing is like, oh, I'm not being successful because radio's not playing my song. No, you're not being successful because no one's playing your song. Because if someone's playing your song, radio are interested.
Yeah.
They want to play the stuff, you know. So if you want to work on getting radio airplay, it's the song. So you know, if you're not traveling, if your music's not traveling, it's
Yeah.
not radio's fault, it's not touring's fault, it's not anybody else's fault. It's generally your song's fault.
Yeah, the song itself.
You've got to have the song that connects with an audience and they go, I like that. The amount of times I take radio programmers to gigs and to showcases and things, and they'll stand there and watch someone sing and turn to me and go, they sang and I felt something.
Yeah, I felt it. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like a good point to like move into from, you know, we've had so much discussion about like how radio functions, like behind the scenes, how radio works. If you are an artist and you have a song and you want to pitch it to radio, what is your advice on like the best way to go about doing that? And, you know, maybe some quick fire like do's and don'ts of like what to include in the email, what to say, what not to say. And obviously this is going to differ for commercial radio and for student radio in terms of you know, niche and just needs.
I think that it's really just a simple email, right? Like, I think when you're reaching out to radio programmers, a lot of people don't understand that picking the music for the radio station is actually quite a small part of that person's job. They're actually running an entire radio station, so they've also got to make sure the ads are going out. They're making sure that all the bits in between the songs and that the announcers are talking about the right things in the right place, the right way. They're saying the right things and not saying stuff that they shouldn't be saying. And you've got to make sure that the radio station is, because of our networks and the people that I'm dealing with those radio stations, they've also got to make sure that Christchurch is still broadcasting, that Tauranga is still broadcasting. We're out of sync in Nelson, so they have to go into a computer room and resync the Nelson back up to the network, and so that what's happening in the studio is happening everywhere at once. So actually picking the music and scheduling the music is actually... Scheduling the music is a bit more time consuming, but the actual picking of the music and that is actually a relatively small part of the job. So they're really busy people. And so people, when you've got to make it easy for them. Right? So it's an email, and they're all really approachable. They're actually really lovely people. Most of them are, most radio people are music lovers who can't play instruments.
Yes, for sure.
You know, so they love music and they want to be able to do music, and so they talk about music and they listen to music. So they're all lovers of music, and so if there's something great, they want to know about it as much as anybody else. You know, so it's if you find out who the people are you want to contact, like look at the radio station and say, I like that radio station, I think I can get played there, and then find out who the person is. I shouldn't say this, but you know, look on our website, look at my email, send me an email and ask me who they are. But in your email there should be, hi, I'm an artist, I'm from here, and this is I've got a song coming out this week, or in a couple of weeks, and this is my song. And put a link, a one-click link to hear the song.
Yeah, this is on, like, say, something like a streaming plug from, like, SoundCloud.
Just
private link.
Yeah.
You don't need access
It can be not something that's going to request access or anything like that. It's something I can click on it and the song starts playing.
So minimal extra steps.
One click and go, oh, yeah, I like the song or I don't like the song. Because like everything, like with funding rounds, like, you know, anything, they need to hear the song and go, oh, yeah, oh, this could work.
Yeah.
You know? Then underneath that, here is a link to all the assets.
Yeah.
And having all your assets ready. So, you know, a link to download the song, right? That's really what if they like it, they always want to know.
Then they want that.
I want the WAV.
Yeah.
You know?
Here's the file.
Sweet. Yeah. So
Easy.
they can go in and grab the file. But if you're going to send a Dropbox, then put photos and put your bio and put press release, you know, put all of that in there, because you don't know, they may want to use it.
Yeah.
They may want to do a little article for the website, so they'll go to the website first and go,
interview.
Here's the bio. You know, well, we're going to do this. Here's a photo. You know, so that can be useful. Or someone's going to interview you, so it's like, oh, here's the information that they're giving to the announcer for you to read. Then I suggest putting in a one pager. It's not necessary if you're sending a Dropbox with everything in it, but maybe a one pager if it's just the link to the song and you've just got a download file of the track. Then put like a one pager, which is basically all the assets condensed into one page,
like a press release, sort of.
Kind of, but it's kind of got stats. Like your Facebook page.
Yeah. So a bit more like a EPK kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of thing. Yeah. Right. Here's
like the information.
The information. If you're any good at PDFs, you can make that look nice and tied into the artwork. Yeah. Because the pros, it's all tied in, like all the artwork ties together. For the album, for the singles, for the photos, there's a theme, you know? And so if you can make that tie in, it kind of looks good.
Yeah.
It's not going to
It's probably what you want to have regardless as well. Across your social media, across your releases.
It just means if you're serious about it, then they'll take you seriously. Totally.
Yeah. You know? Even just like a little, if you've got all your documents, even just like a doc, you know, you got your bio and you got your like cool shit we've done or like, you know, our...
Yeah. Absolutely.
Stuff we're stoked about. And it's like, we opened for this person, we did this, we got we got an article in here.
Yeah, it's maybe
one page.
Exactly.
One page that says, I've got an audience.
Yeah.
Right?
That's it.
And then the last thing I would normally attach is an image.
Yeah.
Like, and that could be
quality.
Yeah, and just like a you know, again, not so important if it's in the if you've seen a whole Dropbox.
Yeah.
But just an image that gives me a context of the artist and the band. So that could be the pack shot, it could be a logo, it could be a band shot, whatever. But something that gives me context, in a visual way. Yeah. Another thing you can do is if you've made the video is to send like an unlisted link to the video.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, here's the video. It's not out yet, but you can see it here.
Yeah.
You know, and like that can be really helpful as well. And then it's just send all of that, and then wait. You know, you can go back and say, hey, you know, a couple of weeks later, hey man, look, anything happening? You are probably not going to hear back.
Yeah.
No,
you know, if you don't hear back, that's your answer.
Yeah.
Okay, like if they like it, they will get in touch.
Yeah.
They will come back to you and say, I like this. Let's do something with it. You know, so if they like it, you'll hear from them. If you don't hear from them, that didn't move them enough.
Hey, and is this the same for the Student Radio Network as well? Slightly different?
Yeah, I think it is because it's the same motivations, but it's Student Radio run a much bigger playlist. They have a much broader spectrum of music. Yeah, where they have specialist shows, but they are much more open to things. So it kind of depends. Like if you're a kind of mainstream artist, then Student Radio probably aren't going to take that much notice of you unless you can start in the same way affecting their audience. It's something that their audience want. They don't have the flash research models and kind of stuff, so they tend to be more fans of scene.
Yeah,
they're in the scene and they know people in bands and they go to shows and they see, you know, they're involved.
They're at every show, man.
Yeah. And they're a part of the scene.
Yeah.
You know? So they get that kind of underground grassroots vibe. And so Student Radio is a great place to start. It's probably the place you'll get your first airplay.
Yeah.
It's probably the place where you'll get your first interview. You know, it's a really, really good place to try and get things going.
Yeah.
But the approach is kind of the same. Send them the song, let them hear the song, give them a bit of information about you. And if they want to play it, they'll play it and they'll get in touch.
Yeah.
But the scope for them is, you know, you don't have to be so professional. But they are kind of more about buzz, and so whichever market you're in, you want people talking about your band and driving an audience, you know, creating audience.
Amazing. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
It's very similar.
It is, but
It's also different.
Yeah, how things have changed. How things have changed over the years. Things are kind of still the same. The reasons why people gravitate towards songs hasn't really changed. You know, and it's still important. You know, the bands that are really popular have these massive audiences of people who love tracks. You know, 660, LAB.
Yeah,
you know,
they're always at the
Kings.
top of the charts.
Yeah, because they put out songs and people are like, I love this.
Yeah.
And they
I'll come to your stadium show.
play it, stream it, and like you look at the top 50 streaming songs in New Zealand at the moment. LAB in the Air is still the top New Zealand.
It's still up there, man.
Yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah.
Like this week, I did my report this week, and they Take It Away has just dropped below it for the first time since its release. So
that's crazy.
In the Air, still a massive song. You know, people love it.
At the end of the day, the email and the package is just like it's like literally wrapping up the song. Like it's about the song itself, but it is obviously
it's a tool,
increases your chances of that person playing it if it's accessible to them. Like if it's not accessible, you know, you're talking about these people being really busy. If they click it and it's like request access, that person's gonna be like, well, never mind.
Absolutely. I can absolutely tell you that's exactly what happens.
They're not going to send you an email being like, I couldn't access your...
the amount of times I've gone, I couldn't get in, so I stopped.
You
know, I had to
There's
request
a whole
access.
line of other songs that's ready for you.
So I guess as an artist, like what you can do is like,
make it
you
as
make
easy
your
as possible.
song as good as possible and then make it as easy as possible for someone else to, first of all, listen to your song and second of all, get the information that they might need to broadcast or
to engage with
your song.
Yeah, totally.
Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. And if you have any more questions, Jeff is quite approachable and we are very approachable. So just flick us a message or leave a comment and we'll try and answer all the questions.
And if people want to get in touch with me, they can search me up on the New Zealand On Air website.
Do the research.
Emails are there.
All our emails are there, and if I answer your email, my phone number's on my signature as well. So I'm not running away. People are like, New Zealand On Air, they're so hard to get a hold of. It's like
have you tried?
It's pretty simple. And it's just not for the music side of it's not just me, like the whole music team, TV side of things, they're all really approachable. It's just a matter of just reaching out and asking questions, because what's good for you is good for us.
Totally.
We just worried about making sure. This is the thing I love about my job, is that I'm not here for a commercial gain. I'm here for the cultural good of all New Zealanders.
It's the best.